My name is James Mackinnon, and I drowned in Loch Ness on November 3, 1979. My heart stopped. My lungs filled with water so cold it felt like shards of glass tearing through my chest. I sank into darkness so complete that up and down ceased to have meaning. I died in those waters, as certain as any death can be. And then something brought me back. I am 71 years old now, writing this in a nursing home in Inverness where the staff think I'm a harmless old man with dementia who talks to himself about monsters and miracles. They humor me when I tell my story, smile indulgently, pat my hand and tell me to rest. They don't believe me. No one has ever believed me, except perhaps my wife, and she's been gone for 15 years. But I'm not mad. I'm not confused. What happened to me that night was real, and I've carried the memory of it, the weight of it, for 45 years. Now, with my time running short and my body failing, I need to tell someone. I need someone to know that the creature in Loch Ness is not a monster, not a curiosity, not a legend for tourists to chase with their cameras. It's a guardian. A protector. And it saved my life when every law of nature said I should be dead. The accident happened during a November storm, the kind that roars down from the North Sea and turns the Highlands into a howling wasteland of wind and freezing rain. I was 26 years old, working as a commercial fisherman, and I was an idiot. An overconfident, reckless idiot who thought he knew the loch better than the storm. I was wrong. My boat was a 20-foot wooden vessel called the Mary Catherine, named for my mother. Nothing fancy, but sturdy enough for the work, hauling nets, checking traps, bringing in the salmon and trout that fed my family. I'd been working since before dawn, trying to get one more haul before the storm hit in full force. I should have gone in when the wind picked up. Should have recognized the signs, the way the water turned from dark blue to angry gray, the way the waves began to crest white, the way the sky pressed down like a lead weight. But I was young and stupid and broke, and I needed that last catch to pay the rent. The wave that capsized me came from nowhere. One moment I was pulling in the net, the next I was underwater, the boat flipping like a toy, gear and tackle raining down around me in the churning darkness. I surfaced gasping, saw the Mary Catherine hull up and sinking fast, and realized with absolute clarity that I was going to die. If you're listening to this testimony, if you found this recording somehow, then you need to understand from the start, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not trying to convince skeptics or win over doubters. I'm simply telling you what happened. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear the full story. Hit that like button if you believe miracles still happen in this cold, rational world. Share this with someone who needs to know that sometimes, in our darkest moments, help comes from the most impossible places. The water temperature was perhaps 8 degrees Celsius. In water that cold, you have minutes before hypothermia sets in. Maybe 10 minutes before your muscles stop responding. 15 if you're lucky and strong. I was neither lucky nor particularly strong, and I was weighed down by heavy fishing clothes and boots that were filling with water. I tried to swim toward shore. Tried to fight the waves, tried to keep my head above water, tried to do everything the survival training said you should do. But the storm was stronger than I was, and the cold was eating into my bones, making my movement sluggish and uncoordinated. I went under once. Came up choking. Went under again. This time it was harder to surface. The third time, I knew I wasn't coming back up. The water closed over my head, and I sank into the deep. Drowning is not like the movies. There's no peaceful acceptance, no life flashing before your eyes, no gentle surrender to the inevitable. There's only panic and pain and the desperate, animal terror of knowing you're dying and being unable to stop it. I clawed at the water, trying to swim upward, but I'd lost all sense of direction. My lungs burned. My chest felt like it would explode. I opened my mouth to scream and water rushed in, cold and choking and final. This is it, I remember thinking. This is how I die. 26 years old, drowned in the same loch my father fished, my grandfather fished, my great-grandfather fished. The water taking me the way it had taken so many others over the centuries. My vision started to narrow, darkness creeping in from the edges. My movement slowed. Stopped. I was sinking now, no longer fighting, just falling through the cold water like a stone dropping into the abyss. And then I felt something beneath me. Not a collision. Not a bump or a strike. Just a presence. Something massive rising from the depths, moving beneath me with impossible grace despite its size. Something that caught me, supported me, began to lift me upward through the water. I was barely conscious. Too far gone to be afraid, too oxygen-starved to process what was happening. I just knew that I was no longer sinking. That something was carrying me. That the darkness was being replaced by a dim, greenish light that seemed to come from the creature itself. We rose through the water, me and the thing that had caught me. Rose past depths that should have crushed my ribs, past pressures that should have burst my eardrums. Rose toward a surface I could no longer see but could somehow sense above us, distant and impossible. My lungs had given up. My heart had stopped, I know this now, from what the doctors told me later. I was clinically dead, brain starved of oxygen, body shut down. By every medical standard, I should have been gone. But the creature didn't stop. Didn't let go. It carried me upward with patient determination, and as we rose, I felt something else. A warmth. Not physical warmth, the water was still freezing, but something internal, as if heat were being pumped directly into my chest, keeping my cells alive despite the cold, despite the lack of oxygen, despite death itself. We broke the surface. The storm was still raging, waves crashing, wind howling, but the creature held me above the water, kept my face in the air. I should have taken a breath. Should have gasped, choked, come back to life with dramatic suddenness like in the movies. But I was dead. My lungs didn't work. My heart didn't beat. I was a corpse held above the water by something that, by all logic and reason, shouldn't exist. And then the creature did something I still don't understand. It pushed me against its body, against the long, serpentine neck, and I felt a vibration. A thrumming. A rhythm that started in the creature and moved through me, into me, resonating with something deep in my chest. Once. Twice. 3 times. On the third pulse, my heart started beating again. I came back to life choking and vomiting water, every nerve in my body screaming with pain as circulation returned and my organs remembered how to function. The creature still held me, its body beneath mine, keeping me afloat while I gasped and retched and slowly, impossibly, returned from death. When I could finally see through the tears and the water streaming down my face, when I could finally focus my eyes on something other than the desperate need for air, I looked at what had saved me. The neck was perhaps 4 meters long, thick as a tree trunk, covered in skin that looked almost black in the storm-dark water but showed hints of deep green when the lightning flashed. The head was smaller than I expected, narrow and intelligent-looking, with eyes that were too large and too expressive for any reptile I'd ever seen. Those eyes looked at me. Really looked at me, with an awareness and intelligence that made my breath catch all over again. This was not an animal. not in any simple sense. This was something else. Something that understood what it had done, what it had saved, what death and life meant. The creature made a sound, low, resonant, felt more than heard. Then it began to move, gliding through the storm-tossed water with me still draped across its neck, heading toward the shore. We must have looked impossible. A drowned fisherman riding a monster through a November storm, lightning flashing overhead, waves crashing around us. If anyone had seen us, they would have thought they were hallucinating, or drunk, or insane. But no one saw. The storm had driven everyone indoors. The shoreline was empty, the villages dark, the loch abandoned to the wind and the rain and the impossible thing that was carrying me to safety. The creature brought me to a small beach near Dawes, on the northeastern shore. It moved into the shallows as far as it could without beaching itself, then gently, remarkably gently for something so large, it rolled, allowing me to slide off its neck into the knee-deep water. I collapsed on the beach, my legs unable to support my weight, my body shaking so violently I thought I might break apart. The creature stayed in the shallows, its head raised above the water, watching me. Waiting, it seemed, to make sure I would survive. Stop here and think about what I'm telling you. A creature, a monster, if you want to call it that, didn't just save me. It brought me back from death. It restarted my heart. It carried me to shore and waited to ensure I would live. If you're still listening, if you haven't dismissed this as the ramblings of a delusional old man, then subscribe now. Hit that like button if you believe compassion exists in forms we don't recognize. Because what happened next is why I've spent 45 years trying to understand what I encountered that night. I tried to speak. Tried to say thank you, though I don't know if it could have understood human words. What came out was a croak, barely intelligible even to me. But the creature seemed to understand anyway. It made that low sound again, that resonant thrumming that I'd felt in my chest when it restarted my heart. Then it began to sink, slowly, gracefully, back into the deeper water. Wait, I managed to rasp. Please. I need to know, what are you? The creature paused. Its eyes met mine one last time, and in that gaze I felt something I can't adequately describe. Recognition, maybe. Or acknowledgement. A sense of connection between two beings that should never have met, should never have touched, should never have shared this impossible moment. Then it was gone. Slipping beneath the surface without a splash, disappearing into the storm-dark water as if it had never been there at all. I lay on that beach for what might have been minutes or might have been hours. Eventually, the cold drove me to move, to stumble up the beach toward the road, toward the lights of Dawes village, toward warmth and shelter and the world of the living that I shouldn't have been able to return to. A farmer found me on the road, collapsed and hypothermic, my lips blue and my skin ice cold. He loaded me into his truck and drove me to the hospital in Inverness, where the doctors spent the next 6 hours trying to figure out how I was still alive. Your core temperature was 29 degrees when you arrived, the doctor told me the next day. 29 degrees Celsius. That's severe hypothermia. People don't survive that. You should have died hours before we ever saw you. But I didn't, I said. No. You didn't. And that's unusual. Your heart stopped at some point. We can see the signs of it in your blood work, in your cardiac enzymes. You were clinically dead, Mr. Mackinnon. And somehow you came back. The creature saved me, I said, and immediately regretted it when I saw his expression change. The creature, he repeated carefully. You mean you hit your head? Lost consciousness and had a dream while you were hypothermic? No. I was drowning. Something caught me, brought me to the surface, carried me to shore. I saw it. I touched it. It was real. The doctor made a note on his chart. Hypothermia can cause hallucinations, Mr. Mackinnon. Vivid ones. Your brain was oxygen-starved, your body was shutting down. It's not uncommon for survivors to report seeing things, feeling things that weren't actually there. It was there, I insisted. It saved my life. I'm sure it felt very real, the doctor said in that patronizing tone medical professionals use when they think you're delusional. The important thing is that you survived. Against all odds, you survived. Try to focus on that rather than on unusual interpretations of events. I stopped arguing. What was the point? He'd already decided I was hallucinating, suffering from oxygen deprivation, inventing explanations for how I'd survived something that should have killed me. My wife believed me. Or said she did, at least. Mary was waiting at the hospital when I woke, her face pale with worry, her hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. They said you drowned, she whispered. They said your boat capsized and you went into the water and you should be dead. James, I thought I'd lost you. You nearly did, I said. I did die, Mary. My heart stopped. I was gone. And something brought me back. The doctors said you were hallucinating, I wasn't. I know what I saw. I know what happened. That creature, the one everyone jokes about, the one tourists come to see, it's real, Mary. It's real and it saved my life. She looked at me for a long moment, searching my face for signs of delirium or delusion. Then she squeezed my hand again. Then we owe it a debt, she said simply. A debt we can never repay. The Mary Catherine was found 3 days later, washed up on the shore near Foyers, battered but intact. The insurance investigator came to interview me about the accident, about what had happened, about how I'd survived. You're a lucky man, Mr. Mackinnon, he said, flipping through his notes. Very lucky. Most fishermen who capsize in November don't make it. The cold alone should have killed you, never mind the drowning. I had help, I said. Help? Was there another boat nearby? Someone who pulled you out? Not another boat. Something else. He looked up from his notes, his expression shifting from professional interest to wary concern. What kind of something else? I should have lied. Should have made up a story about finding a floating log, about catching an unexpected wave that pushed me to shore, about anything other than the truth. But I was young and honest and still overwhelmed by what had happened. The creature in the loch, I said. It caught me when I was drowning. Brought me to the surface. Carried me to shore. The investigator stared at me. Then he closed his notebook. Mr. Mackinnon, I'm going to need you to be serious. This is an official investigation into a marine accident. If you're not willing to provide accurate testimony, that is accurate testimony. That's what happened. You expect me to write in my report that the Loch Ness Monster saved you from drowning? You expect my company to accept a claim based on cryptozoological intervention? I expect you to write what I'm telling you happened. I don't care if you believe it or not. He didn't write it. The official report said I'd survived through exceptional luck and robust constitution, that I'd managed to reach shore through extraordinary effort and favorable conditions. It said nothing about the creature. Nothing about being saved. Nothing about the truth. Word got out anyway. Small villages have no secrets, and the story of the fisherman who claimed the monster saved him spread through the Highlands like wildfire. Some people believed me. Most didn't. All of them talked. The tourists came first. Monster hunters and cryptozoologists and journalists looking for a sensational story. They knocked on my door at all hours, offering money for interviews, for tours of where it happened, for any detail I could provide about the creature. I refused them all. This wasn't a story for entertainment. This wasn't a legend to be exploited for tourism revenue. This was my life. My death. My salvation. And I wasn't going to cheapen it by turning it into a carnival sideshow. But the attention didn't stop. If anything, it intensified. Within a week, I'd been interviewed by 3 separate tabloids, without my permission, based on what other people had heard and repeated and embellished. Within a month, my story had been featured in a documentary about Loch Ness sightings, presented alongside obvious hoaxes and blurry photographs that looked like floating logs. I became a joke. There's the man who says Nessie saved him, people would whisper when I walked through Fort William. Poor James Mackinnon hasn't been right since the accident. The hypothermia damaged his brain. My fishing business suffered. No one wanted to hire a crew member who was known for telling tall tales, who might be unreliable, who might be suffering from brain damage or delusions. Mary had to take extra shifts at the shop to make ends meet. Our children heard taunts at school about their father who talked to monsters. I learned, eventually, to stop telling the story. Learned to say, I don't remember when people asked how I survived. Learned to smile and nod when they suggested I'd been hallucinating, that the trauma had confused my memories, that obviously I'd made it to shore through some combination of luck and determination that my oxygen-starved brain had reinterpreted as a rescue. But I never forgot. Never stopped knowing what had really happened. And I never stopped wondering why. Why would a creature save me? What did it see in a drowning fisherman that made it worth the effort of intervention? What am I supposed to do with this debt that can never be repaid? Part 2 will reveal what I've learned in the 45 years since that night, and why I believe the creature didn't just save one man, it was sending a message to all of us. I stayed away from the loch for 2 years after the accident. Couldn't bear to look at the water, couldn't stand the thought of getting back in a boat, couldn't face the memory of drowning and the impossible thing that had pulled me back from death. I took a job in a warehouse in Inverness. Indoor work, safe work, the kind of employment that didn't require me to think about deep water or storms or creatures that shouldn't exist. Mary supported the decision, though I could see the concern in her eyes. I'd been a fisherman my entire adult life. Taking me away from the water was like taking a bird away from the sky. But I couldn't go back. Not yet. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those final moments, the water closing over my head, the darkness, the certainty of death. And then I'd see the creature, feel its presence beneath me, remember the impossible salvation. The dream started about 6 months after the accident. Not nightmares exactly, but not peaceful either. I would dream I was back in the water, drowning again, sinking into the depths. But this time, when the creature came, it didn't bring me to the surface. Instead, it took me deeper, down into the coldest, darkest parts of the loch, and it showed me things. I saw the loch as it had been thousands of years ago, when the ice was melting and the water was new. I saw the creature, younger then, smaller, one of several that lived in the deeper channels. I saw them hunting, communicating, existing in a way that suggested intelligence and society rather than simple animal behavior. I saw the passages closing, the water level changing, the other creatures dying or leaving. I saw this one, the one that had saved me, choosing to stay, adapting, surviving alone for centuries while the world above changed and forgot what lived below. And I saw something else. Something that took me years to understand. I saw myself. Not as I was, but as the creature saw me. And in its perception, I wasn't an individual. I was a representative. A symbol. One of the humans who fished the loch, who took from it, who lived alongside it without understanding what they lived beside. The creature had saved me not because I was special, but because I was ordinary. Because saving one ordinary human was the only way it could communicate what it wanted us to know. I woke from these dreams gasping and confused, trying to hold onto the images before they faded like smoke. Mary would find me sitting at the kitchen table at 3 in the morning, writing frantically in a notebook, trying to capture the visions before I lost them. "James," she said one night, her hand on my shoulder. "You need to stop this. You need to let it go." "I can't," I said. "It's trying to tell me something. Through the dreams. It saved me for a reason, Mary. I need to understand what that reason was. Maybe there was no reason. Maybe you were just lucky. Maybe you survived because you're strong and stubborn and refused to die. No. There was a reason. I know there was. I just don't know what it is yet." 2 years after the accident, I went back to the loch. I didn't go back to fishing. Couldn't bring myself to haul nets or check traps, to take from the water that had almost claimed me. Instead, I started spending my evenings walking the shore, watching the water, waiting for something I couldn't name. The locals thought I was obsessed. "Poor James Mackinnon," they'd say. "Still chasing his monster. Still trying to prove he's not crazy." Maybe they were right. Maybe I was obsessed. But I knew what I'd experienced, and I knew it meant something, and I couldn't rest until I understood what. I saw the creature 3 more times over the next 10 years. The first time was in the spring of 1982. I was standing on the shore near Urquhart Castle at dawn when the water began to move. Not waves, not wind, just a smooth displacement as something large passed beneath the surface. I watched, barely breathing, as the familiar shape appeared briefly in the deep water, the long neck, the distinctive head, the grey-green skin that caught the early morning light. It surfaced perhaps 50 meters from shore, looked directly at me, and then sank again. The entire encounter lasted maybe 10 seconds. But it was enough. Enough to confirm that I hadn't imagined it, that the creature was real and alive and still here. The second sighting was in 1985. I'd taken to camping on the shore, spending whole weekends watching the water, and on a clear July night I saw it moving through the loch, its body creating bioluminescent ripples in the water. It passed close to my camp, close enough that I could have waded out and touched it if I'd been brave or foolish enough to try. This time, it made that sound again, the low, resonant thrumming I'd felt in my chest the night it restarted my heart. The sound carried across the water, and I felt it vibrate through my body, and I understood something I hadn't understood before. It was saying hello, or goodbye, or simply acknowledging my presence the way you might nod to an acquaintance you pass on the street. This is important, so listen carefully. The creature wasn't just an animal. It had been alone for so long, centuries, maybe millennia, that saving me, acknowledging me, communicating with me represented something significant. A breaking of isolation. A reaching out across the gulf between species that should never have met. Subscribe if you want to understand what that means. Hit that like button if you believe loneliness exists in forms we can't imagine. Because what I'm about to tell you is why I think the creature chose to reveal itself to me, and why that choice matters more than just one man's survival. The third sighting was in 1989, and it was the one that changed everything. I was on the shore near Dawes, the same beach where the creature had brought me after saving me, when I saw a boat in trouble. A small sailing vessel, capsized, 2 people in the water. They were far out, maybe half a kilometer from shore, and they were struggling. One of them was clearly injured, barely moving. The other was trying to support them both, but losing the battle against the cold water. I ran along the shore, shouting, trying to get their attention, trying to figure out how to help. There were no other boats nearby, no rescue services I could call in time. By the time help arrived, those people would be dead. And then the water moved. The creature surfaced near the capsized boat, its long neck rising from the water. The 2 swimmers saw it and panicked, thrashing away from it, wasting precious energy on fear. But the creature moved with patient determination, positioning itself between them and letting them grab onto its body. I watched from shore as it carried them in, exactly as it had carried me 10 years before. Watched it bring them into the shallows, watched them collapse on the beach, watched it wait to ensure they would survive. Then it looked at me. Across the distance, across the water, its eyes met mine. And I understood. This was why it had saved me. Not because I was special, but to show me what it was. What it did. What it had been doing for longer than human memory. The creature wasn't just an animal hiding in the loch. It was a guardian. A protector. Something that saved drowning humans because that was its nature, its purpose, its choice. The 2 people I'd watched being saved had no idea what had rescued them. They told the newspapers it was a log they'd grabbed onto, a piece of debris from their boat. They were both hypothermic, disoriented, and eager to dismiss the impossible thing they'd encountered. But I knew. I knew what had saved them. And I knew why the creature had done it where I could see. It wanted me to understand. Wanted me to know that I wasn't the only one. That it had been doing this, saving drowning humans, for as long as humans had been drowning in these waters. After that third sighting, I started researching. Spent hours in the library in Inverness, digging through old newspapers and historical records, looking for patterns. Looking for other stories like mine. I found them. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe, if you counted the ones that were dismissed or explained away or forgotten. In 1934, a child fell through ice near Fort Augustus. The parents reported seeing something large under the ice, pushing the child toward shore before they could reach her. The official report said the current had carried her to safety. In 1952, a fishing boat capsized near Foyers. 3 crew members were found on shore, hypothermic but alive. They claimed something had carried them through the water. The investigation concluded they'd found floating debris to cling to. In 1967, a swimmer got caught in an undertow near Inverness. Lifeguards said he was too far out to save, but he made it back to shore anyway. He told anyone who would listen that something in the water had pushed him, guided him, kept him from drowning. Nobody believed him. In 1973, a tourist fell off a boat near Drumnadroshit. The water was rough, visibility was poor, rescue teams couldn't find him. He turned up on shore 3 hours later, alive and confused, talking about being carried by something massive and gentle. The pattern was clear once you knew to look for it. Every few years, sometimes more often, someone would survive a drowning that should have killed them. And almost every time, there were reports, dismissed, ridiculed, explained away, of something in the water helping them. The creature had been saving humans for decades, maybe centuries, pulling drowning people from the depths, carrying them to shore, keeping them alive when they should have died. And no one knew. No one believed. The tourists came to see a monster, the scientists came to find a prehistoric reptile, the legend grew and mutated into entertainment and commerce, and the entire time, the real story was being ignored. The creature in Loch Ness wasn't a monster at all. It was a lifeguard. A silent, ancient, impossibly patient guardian that had chosen to protect the humans who lived around its waters. I tried to tell people, tried to publish my research, tried to get newspapers interested, tried to connect the dots for anyone who would listen. Nobody cared. The evidence was too circumstantial, the witnesses too scattered and discredited, the whole thing too convenient for the man who'd built his reputation on claiming the monster saved him. "You're seeing what you want to see," a journalist told me after I showed him my findings. "You survived something traumatic, and now you're creating a narrative that gives meaning to that survival. It's understandable, but it's not evidence. These are documented cases," I argued. "Official reports. Multiple witnesses. These are coincidences and misidentifications. People see what they expect to see, especially when they're drowning. The human brain creates explanations for things it doesn't understand. That's all this is." I stopped trying to convince people after that. What was the point? They decided what they wanted to believe, and no amount of evidence would change their minds. But I kept watching, kept documenting, kept my vigil on the shore, waiting for the creature to reveal itself again. Mary died in 2009. Cancer, fast and merciless. She was gone within 6 months of diagnosis, and I was alone again in a way I hadn't been since before we married. She'd supported my obsession with the creature, supported my research, supported my conviction that what had happened to me mattered. But even she had doubts sometimes. Even she wondered if I was chasing shadows, if I'd built my entire worldview around a hallucination born of oxygen deprivation and trauma. "Promise me something," she said near the end, when the morphine made her honest in ways she rarely allowed herself to be. "Promise me you'll let this go eventually. You've spent 40 years watching that loch, James. You've given it enough. When I'm gone, when the children are grown and you're old, let it go. Live your life." I promised. But I didn't mean it. How could I? The creature had given me my life back. I owed it everything. After Mary died, I moved into the nursing home. Not because I needed care, I was still healthy, still mobile, but because it was near the loch. Because from my window, I could see the water. Because even now, even at 71 years old with my time running short, I couldn't stop watching for the creature that had saved me. The staff think I'm delusional. They've noted in my file that I talk about monsters, that I spend hours staring at the water, that I've refused multiple suggestions to move to a facility farther from the loch where I might be less fixated on the past. But I'm not fixated. I'm grateful. There's a difference. And I'm worried. The loch is changing. Even I can see it from my window. The water is warmer than it used to be. The tourist boats are more numerous, noisier, more intrusive. There's talk of new development, new hotels, new attractions. The loch is being turned into an even bigger theme park, and I wonder how much longer the creature can tolerate the intrusion. I haven't seen it in 15 years. Not since that day in 1989 when it saved the 2 swimmers. I've watched, waited, hoped, but the water has remained empty. Sometimes I worry that it's gone. That it finally left, or died, or simply decided that humans weren't worth protecting anymore. Other times, I worry that it's still there but hiding deeper, retreating into the coldest, darkest parts of the loch to escape the noise and the boats and the endless parade of people looking for it. I'm dying. The doctors don't say it outright, but I can see it in their faces, feel it in my body. Heart failure, they call it. Ironic, really. The heart that stopped in 1979 and was restarted by a creature from legend is finally giving out for good. But before it does, before I follow Mary into whatever comes next, I need to say this clearly: the creature is real. It saves people. And it deserves better than to be hunted and photographed and turned into a tourist attraction. Subscribe if you believe this testimony matters. Hit that like button if you think gratitude can transcend death. Share this with anyone who's ever been saved by something they couldn't explain. Last week, I asked one of the nurses to take me down to the shore. She thought I was being sentimental, wanting one last look at the water I'd spent my life watching. She didn't know I was hoping for one more glimpse. One more confirmation that the creature was still there, still protecting, still fulfilling whatever ancient purpose had led it to save a drowning fisherman 45 years ago. The nurse waited while I stood on the beach, leaning on my walker, staring at the dark water. It was early morning, cold and grey, the kind of day that keeps tourists in their hotels. The loch was empty of boats. The shore was deserted. Just me and the water and the memories. I waited for an hour. The nurse grew concerned, tried to convince me to go back to the home, but I insisted on staying. I needed to see it. Needed to know it was still there. And then, just as I was about to give up, the water moved. The creature surfaced perhaps 30 meters from shore. Not close. It had always been cautious about exposing itself, but close enough that I could see it clearly. Close enough that there was no doubt, no possibility of misidentification. It looked older. I don't know how I could tell, but I could. Something in the way it moved, in the pattern of scars across its neck, in the depth of its eyes. It had aged in the 15 years since I'd last seen it, just as I had aged. We'd both survived into our twilight years, both witnesses to a time and a world that was rapidly changing around us. The nurse behind me gasped. "Mr. Mackinnon, is that?" "Yes," I said simply. "That's what saved me." The creature looked at me across the water. Held my gaze the way it had that first night, when it had waited on the beach to ensure I would survive. And I understood, in that wordless way we'd always communicated, that this was goodbye. It was tired. The loch was changing, becoming inhospitable, too warm and too polluted and too crowded for something that had lived here for so long. The creature was leaving. Or dying. Or simply choosing to disappear into whatever deeper waters might still offer sanctuary. And it had come to show itself one last time. To let me know that my vigil hadn't been in vain. That I had understood correctly. That the connection between us, between the drowning man and the thing that saved him, had been real. I raised my hand. A simple gesture, inadequate for expressing 45 years of gratitude, but the only thing I could offer. The creature's head dipped slightly, acknowledging the gesture. Then it made that sound, that low, resonant thrumming that I'd felt in my chest when it restarted my heart. I felt it again now. Felt it vibrate through my body, felt it touch something deep inside me. Not restarting my heart this time, that heart was beyond saving. But something else. A gift. A final gift from a creature that had saved my life and shaped everything that came after. I felt peace. Complete, profound peace. The kind that comes from knowing you fulfilled your purpose, that your life had meaning, that the universe makes sense even when it seems incomprehensible. The creature sank beneath the surface. Smoothly, gently, leaving barely a ripple. And it was gone. I stood on that beach until the nurse insisted we go back, stood there hoping it would surface again, knowing it wouldn't. That was the last time. The final glimpse. The end of a connection that had defined my entire adult life. I'm recording this 3 days later. My heart is failing rapidly now. The doctors give me weeks at most. Mary is waiting for me somewhere beyond this life, and I'm ready to join her. But before I go, I need you to understand what I've spent 45 years trying to tell people. The Loch Ness Monster is real. But it's not a monster. It's a guardian. A protector. An ancient, intelligent being that has chosen to save drowning humans for reasons we may never fully understand. It saved me in 1979. It saved countless others before and after. And now it's leaving, or dying, or disappearing into depths we can't reach, and when it's gone, we'll have lost something precious. Something irreplaceable. Subscribe to this channel not to chase legends or hunt monsters, but to remember. Remember that sometimes the impossible is real. Remember that help comes from unexpected places. Remember that gratitude is a debt that can never be fully repaid, but must always be acknowledged. Hit that like button if this story touched you. If it made you think about the creatures we dismiss and the truths we ignore. If it made you wonder what else might be watching over us from the deep places of the world. Share this with everyone. Share it with believers and skeptics alike. Share it with people who've been saved by miracles they couldn't explain. Share it with anyone who's ever looked at deep water and wondered what might be looking back. The fisherman who shipwrecked says the Loch Ness Monster saved him. And he's telling the truth. The creature is real. The creature is kind. And the creature deserves our gratitude, our respect, and our protection. I won't be here much longer to keep watching. But someone needs to. Someone needs to remember what I saw, what I experienced, what I know to be true. Please. Remember. And if you're ever drowning in cold, dark water, and something impossible catches you and pulls you to safety, don't be afraid. It's just the guardian doing what it's always done. Saving us, even when we don't deserve it. James Mackinnon died on March 17, 2024, at the age of 71. This recording was found among his possessions, along with notebooks filled with research about drowning incidents in Loch Ness dating back to 1823. The nurse who accompanied him to the shore that final day confirmed that she saw something large in the water that morning. She declined to speculate on what it was. Since Mackinnon's death, there have been no confirmed sightings of the creature in Loch Ness. Whether it has left, died, or simply chosen to remain hidden is unknown. But the drownings have stopped. For the first time in recorded history, not a single person has drowned in Loch Ness in the 12 months since James Mackinnon's death. Make of that what you will.